Good day, my name is Graham Ward and I'm here to take you through Unit Standard 252334. Let's take a look at the specific outcomes of this unit standard. Formulate performance standards for team members of a unit. Establish systems for monitoring performance. Prepare for a performance review of a team member and conduct performance review interview. So the setting of performance standards is a fairly new concept. It originates so that we can understand and evaluate whether an employee is meeting the objectives and staying on goal with what we're trying to do as an organization. It's important that performance standards are about an individual's work and what they do in the organization, what they're responsible for and what they're accountable for. As said before, unit standards mustn't be too hard or too simple, or in fact too complicated. What's very important is that employees understand the measurement tools and what and how they're going to be measured against their performance standards. Feedback to an employee helps the employee or team member to begin to understand their performance measures. It begins to help them understand where they fit in within the organization and what's required of them in their responsibility arena. It helps an individual to understand their strengths, and as we've discussed in a previous unit standard, the strengths of an individual are what we are capitalizing on within a team. Each team member has strengths, and those strengths are what we want to bring to the table to maximize the performance of a team. It's very important to ensure that when giving feedback to an individual team member, that the performance is measured and or documented. Documentation provides historical data that we can look back on at a later stage and see and measure the performance of the individual going forward. Peter Drucker, a famous management guru or consultant, writes the following with regard to measurement tools and measuring performance of individuals. He states, "Organization goals are defined, firstly. Then the goals are delegated. The performance contracts are set, what each individual or team within the organization has to achieve to help with the organizational goals. We then implement the plan of each individual inside a team so that they know what they've got to do to meet the organizational goals or team goals first. And finally, we review the results." Assessing an individual's performance is often done quarterly or biannually. It's important that the individual knows how often they're going to be appraised. Formal sessions are a common way in which individuals are appraised. Individuals are sat down and then their results and or performance is gone over. Counseling sessions could also be a good way in which individuals may be appraised for their performance. It allows managers also to appraise as to whether members need to be retrained or trained in certain areas where they are deficient. These areas are important because they help to attain the goals of the organization. Retraining or training an individual is important because if you want to meet the goals of your organization, you're going to want to have individuals which can do or are competent in the tasks delegated to them. If a team member is not performing successfully, it's easy to see with regular reviews. Before you conduct an employee review, you may want to consider the venue, the lighting, the comfortableness of the venue, to ensure that the employee who is being reviewed feels okay and positive about the situation or about the review that's about to take place. And don't forget, as the appraiser of the employee, it's important that you document the review process, that you have a record of what's taken place during the review. Let's just take a look on screen as to what might be applicable when you formulate and do a review of an employee's performance. You may want to set the scene, that is, make it comfortable, make it airy and light, and ensure that the employee will be comfortable in his environment. You may want to let the employee speak first, just to settle him or her down and feel comfortable before presenting your views on the matters. Always allow time for discussion and for the employee to express their views on the performance progress. They also have a side to tell when it comes to their performance. At the end of the session, sum up the findings of the review. Let the employee agree that his input and yours has been applicable to the performance standards set for him. And always look for the employee to commit towards the summary and to the findings before leaving. Make sure also that when you do leave, you leave on a high note, encouraging the employee and making them feel comfortable about where they're going. As the leader of the employee and having conducted the appraisal, you're likely to have to create a summary document or a plan forward. Let's call it an action plan. As we know from a previous unit standard, action plans about what has to be done, by who, and by when. An action plan is something which is written, and it writes down where the employee may not have met certain performance standards. You'll need to write down and also document the consequences of not meeting such unit standards. These will often lead to behavioral changes that you can suggest towards the employee in order to up their game and meet the performance standards set by the organization. And this will typically lead to action from the employee. What has to be done? By who, that is the employee, and by when. You'd want to set deadlines as to when the employee will meet the new behavioral changes in order to meet the expectations and goals of the organization. In other words, meet the performance standards that have been agreed by the employee and the organization, or you as the leader.